Hello guys, I thought I'd do a little introduction to my setup. I've done one of these before, but it was a completely different layout, so I thought I'd go through really the stage it's at the moment. I'm always adding and subtracting things, so what I thought I'd do is sort of take you through each component that I've got here, then talk about how it all links together, because it's kind of interesting from an audio perspective and a MIDI perspective, and then also show you some combinations of how things work. So I've got two cameras running. The main one here, which is the overview. I've got this handheld one, which I'm going to hopefully use to show you individual pieces of gear with one hand, which means I've got a hand to. I've got two hands, but it'll be useful to show you various things. Obviously, we've got different instruments around, acoustic instruments. We've got the harp. We've got acoustic guitars. There's clarinets, flutes, saxophones, electric guitar, which is partly acoustic, I suppose. I've got my trusty, crashing everything together, trusty UE 4000S electronic wind instrument from Akai, and a whole bunch of other things. I'm recording this on a Zoom 6 here, which is recording my voice on the microphones, and obviously it's got a line input from this gear. Just a really quickie about the audio for all of this. I've got most of the instruments on this side going into this Clark Technic as a submixer. Sorry, it's a Behringer. Clark Technic is the effects. So most of this in there. And then I've got another mixer over here, which is taking all of that mixer, basically on two channels, and then a couple of these, and the Korg Volca beats. So that's roughly how it works. So let's go through the equipment, and I'll switch hands to play different things. So the heart of the operation is this Elektron Digitakt, which, as you know, is a sampler on the top 8 instruments here, and then eight MIDI tracks, and that's used, or the 8 MIDI tracks is used to allow me to sequence a whole bunch of this gear on top of the sample tracks. I use the sample tracks, as you can hear, for drums. I've got some bass tracks on there, and then various percussion and other types of tracks. The samples, other types of samples rather. So the samples that I use vary from very short analog sounds right through to long orchestral ones. So these two tracks here on the end, for example, I've got it's about a 20-second orchestral loop, which I'm using on some pieces. But the main thing, like I said here, is using these MIDI tracks as well. So before I go into the MIDI, let's just go through the other pieces of equipment. I've got an analog 4 here, which is 4 analog tracks, 4 mono analog tracks, but it also does polyphonic, so I've got some of those sounds in polyphonic. That's sequenced from here, but it's also got its own internal sequencer, which allows me to set up 2 sequences. 4 tracks along here, and also an input. I'll talk about the inputs in a second. Sorry, I'll just play this one. I don't generally play it from there a lot, but I can if I want to. I've got a Kaossilator Pro, Korg Kaossilator Pro here, which is this sort of touch-based thing. You set the key, F sharp, you set the scale. It's a sort of minor harmonic scale. You choose your sounds. It's also got a sort of arpeggiator. It's really a gate which triggers the notes in time with the rest of the gear. This little effects box here is a Digitakt RP50. It's used for the guitar over here. It's just a multi-effects unit. I've got a Boss SY1 coming pretty soon, which may replace that. At the moment, it's just used for traditional electric guitar type stuff. Carrying on round, under here we've got a Waldorf Streichfett, I think that's how it's pronounced, German, which is a string synthesizer. I'll just show you how this works actually. So I quickly set the track here, which then routes this master keyboard through the Digitakt and then out to the device. So that's the Streichfett's playing. It's got a range of sounds from sort of very 80s type sounds, kind of Jean-Michel Jarre, through to more modern sort of phasing vocal-y type sounds, but it's mostly used obviously for pads. This is a sound I use a lot. This quite big orchestrally organ vocal type thing. You can change the nice thing with a Streichfett. It's got its own effects unit built in here, so I usually have it on the reverb, and I can set very long reverb decay, so it's still dying off, which is really useful for slow sections. Then I've got two analog synths here, which are the sort of heart of the system. The SE02. Just make sure everything's working here. So at the moment I've got it controlled primarily. I use these two Keysteps as MIDI controllers as well. So there's the master controller, which can send to any of 8 MIDI tracks, and then these guys can go to any of 16 tracks. At the moment this is set to basically shift 9. 9 is the MIDI for this. But I could use this one for the Behringer if I wanted by going big enough hands, shift 15. This is now controlling the Behringer, but generally I have them lined up so that the keystep is controlling the one underneath it most of the time. So this is currently set to, it's on an arpeggiator for put hold on, and it's a 3 oscillator synth. So I've actually put some bigger knobs on here for the main things I use, like tuning, oscillator mix here, and then of course the filter. So using the mixer, just bringing in the other oscillators. So that's on a low sound at the moment, and then you've got the waveforms, the usual 3 oscillator mono synth. I think that's called West Coast, is it? Maybe wrong. Okay. Then a similar arrangement here. This is currently set to 15 on this key step. Let's just put it on a loop sound. So the nice thing about the Behringer is it's got switches for the oscillators, so I don't need to turn the volumes up. On this one I have to turn the volumes, on this one I can just switch. So single oscillator, double oscillator, and bring in a nice bass. Filters. Oh, let's turn that off. The echo you're hearing, by the way, sorry, I haven't gone into the audio yet, but I'll probably just brush through these things as we work through. So the 2 mono synths in the middle here, they're actually routed through the analog 4. It's not just to save tracks on the mixers, but it's also to use the internal effects on here. So for example, let's just get this one going again. So this is the SE02 routed through here, and then so on there I'm using delay, reverb and chorus. So if I want to add a bit of reverb Oops, on the wrong one. So I can use the analog 4 reverb, which is really nice, the analog 4 delay, the pan, so that's off to the right and that's off to the left, and even if I want a bit of chorus, just to fatten up the sound on the way in. So I'm using the external inputs of this. So this is effectively now a 6-channel mixer, if you like, of 6 analog synths, 4 internal, and then these 2. Okay, so I use the hold function on the Keysteps quite a lot to hold the arpeggio, play chords, change the tempos. Over here I've got a Volca beat, so this is a really simple, beat unit, which I mainly use for bass drum and hi-hat, this sort of thing. I like it because on the fly I can change things like the decay of the bass drum a bit longer, the pitch of the bass drum, and then how much click. So as the track's getting a bit more warmed up, I can adjust that. I can also demute things, so I just demuted the hi-hat there, on and off, and I can do that on the fly with the hand and still be playing this hand over here. A bit of a decay there. So MIDI, and we'll get onto this section in a second. So MIDI wise, this is the MIDI source, MIDI clock source. Currently at 80 BPM. That's sending MIDI out to everything else. Primarily this, because I use this as a converter. From MIDI through to analog or clock, CV clock. So the CV clock goes into here, then it goes from here, CV clock, to MIDI again, and then out of here it sort of spreads out. I'm using probably can't see it, a distribution unit. There's a couple of MIDI distribution units around the back there, which take the most of the stuff from the Digitakt through this merger box, and then it's distributed out to everything else. What else is here? We've got, I think I've covered everything on this top area, apart from the MIDI merger. The reason I'm using a MIDI merger, by the way, is that the Digitakt doesn't send controller information. So what that means is if I want to send modulation or pitch bend from here, through here and then out to the rest of the instruments, it doesn't get sent through. So I actually have, it's not a very elegant solution. So when I want to do like slow beginnings with lots of controller messages, I have to connect that. So it's basically sending Digitakt information and then through information, which is the controller, and then this gets sent to everything else from these two. The main master keyboard is it's a little Casio keyboard. It's the CDP200R. Nothing special apart from obviously weighted keys. Let's just play it by itself. I've got it set to a electric piano pad sound at the moment. I like this one because when I hit the sustain pedal, I get this lovely shimmering sort of pad sound underneath. It's primarily used though for a standard stereo piano sound, which is pretty good. Very quickly onto this stuff over here. This Echo machine is exclusively used at the moment for the UE4000S to provide a little bit of delay because this is routed through the Digitakt. So you can see I'm sort of using a lot of audio through instruments. I forgot to mention the Waldorf Streichfett, for example, is audio's going through the Chaos, and then that audio is going through here. So I use that because I can mix on the fly. So for example, let's just get the Streichfett going. I can actually control the audio of that from there, and similarly with the these two going through the analog 4, I control the audio through the 2 input tracks here. There's 2 volumes here which I can control. So it's like sub-mixing through different instruments. So back to this, this echo machine, the Akai is going through that. On the master outputs, what I'll do is I'll just get something going quickly. A little bit of Akai, a little bit of SE02, a little bit of the Behringer. So a little bit of the Streichfett. Well, that'll do for now. Oops, it's quite loud in my headphones, I can't hear what I'm saying. So a couple of other big things here. I've got this on the master outputs from this lot going through the Strymon, which is a really good stereo reverb unit. So that's a normal reverb on room. Just make sure it's switched right. Free delay. So it's quite wet at the moment. Hopefully you can hear me over there. And I can control on the fly the wetness and the dryness as the track, say, goes from a really nice soft beginning. I can set it so it then sort of dries out, and you have much more of a aggressive sound coming through. That sort of thing. It's just vary the sound on the Behringer here because it's not particularly exciting. And then the next thing is, before it goes into the main mixer, it goes through this KP3 Chaos pad, which has got a range of things set up. One of the ones I use a lot is the filter effect. So that allows me, as you can see there, a bit of control over the overall filtering of this lot. And I can bring the higher frequencies back, and I can even with this thing control the filtering in real time using this pad motion. So I just recorded as it goes from open filter up here to closed filter down there. Turn the reverb off. Let's just get rid of all this. And over here, a couple of extra keyboards. I've sort of got this area as a space so I can add and subtract things. So this is the Novation Base Station 2, which is a fantastic analog synth. Not just used for bass sound, I use it for everything really. I've got a whole bunch of presets set up. It's just on something now to demonstrate the whole lot here. I think I'm still recording. Yes. And then up here is, I suppose, not truly an analog instrument. Most of the other stuff is, apart from, I think, the Streichfett, obviously the sample part of the Digitakt. And then this is a sort of VST or virtual analog synth emulating the old Rolands. I use this for a bunch of things, for pads. And I've also got presets on here for lots of arpeggios and such like. And I think that's it. I'm going to put this guy over here so I can get two hands going, because a lot of this requires two-handed operation. No idea if that's camera's pointing the right way. We'll see. So a couple on the acoustic instruments. So this is sorry, not acoustic, but this has got this is actually an analog synthesizer inside this thing. But like I said, this is going through this echo unit into the Digitakt. Hear the delay there. The incredible thing about this is it's got like a 10 octave range. I can't remember the exact amount, but it goes from ridiculously low sounds right up to very high sounds. It's also got a glissando feature, so if I touch this rail here, you probably can't see it, as I go up you can get this amazing glissando effects. So it's almost off the range of hearing right down to bass, very bass levels. Mostly I solo in the middle, of course. Let's put a pad on to solo too. And then very high sounds. So I can, for example, build up a piece having a pad like that. Just take a bit of the filter off it. Start a sequence, a bit higher. And then bring in the Chaos pad here. It's a nice counterpoint to this one. You sort of get them talking to each other. So what I'm doing there on the let's put them here, wait a second. So what I was doing on the Chaos there is it's set to gate up, and if you hit it just at the right time, you can get it completely in sync with everything else. You have to do a bit of trial and error. So the other things we got around here, obviously I've got this ESP Limited 8-string guitar, which I've currently use in traditional guitar type styles. Bit loud. I've got live control of the sound of any acoustic sound here. So there's this channel is used for the mic and the electric guitar. The mic's over there at the moment. I normally have it close to hand for the acoustic instruments. If I'm recording acoustically, I will obviously have the headphones on, and then I'm actually using these Behringer to balance the various instruments. It's always hard with the guitar because you want to hear it above the mix, of course. I'll just turn those off. Another thing I do with the guitar sometimes is put the Strymon over here into shimmer mode. Choose a preset which is a little more natural string sound. And then use the Strymon to give that, it's actually been quite overused now, but to give a very atmospheric beginning to a piece. The effect of the shimmer is obviously it creates this tail of sound which gives everything atmosphere. So if I play the electric piano sound, probably a bit over the top at the moment. So it's best for slow beginnings to a piece. Okay, so I'll take it off shimmer because, like I said, it's been used an awful lot. So how I start a piece is probably something. You're still going? Yeah. I think the battery's low in the main camera there, but this guy's still going. It may keep us to the end. How I may start a piece. Now I've got all this at my disposal. Obviously, I do try and do melodic pieces, so I don't just go into a big drum beat. Obviously this could be a sample drum beat, the Digitakt. I could have sample, obviously sort of a drum loop in the boss. I've got other possibilities of having drum beats from the Chaos and so on. These are both samplers as well. But what I tend to do is go for a nice mellow opening, like starting in F sharp minor here. Bit of noodling on the electric piano. Put some sustain on the sound. Controlling the filter of that. I can play this from any of the other instruments. So for example, very easily I can go to this one. So now I'm playing the Roland from this guy. Well, it's actually in arpeggiator mode at the moment, so it's not ideal. I can play the Roland from here, even there, but it's actually nicer just to reach over and then still going. Bit of soloing over there, perhaps occasionally hit a drum. Or a hi-hat. Then might get a sequence going off in the distance. So the Behringer, bit of a sub bass going on there. I'm going to increase the variation on the Behringer by the depth of the LFO, controlling the filter, just to provide some variation. I just took the sustain off the piano there, so you heard it drop back. I can then drop the keyboard out of the picture, bring in a hi-hat just to crystallize the fact we've got a sequence going. Subtly bring in, or not so subtly, the Novation. What I'm going to do on the Digitakt is bring in the orchestral sounds, and as soon as they come in, I'm going to drop out the analog synths. So only the Novation's still going. bit more reverb, a bit of piano over the top. So this, I don't know if you can see that, I might grab this camera. So I've got the two samples going there in stereo, left and right, and then I've already pre-programmed a SE02, which is this one, in time with that. And then once that's going, of course, I can control the sounds in the SE02. And you can hear the delay working in stereo. Likewise, I've got sounds from the Behringer, which is this guy, programmed into channel 15 on the Digitakt. And then turning the piano down, I've selected, say, track 12, MIDI channel 12, which is a solo sound from the Analog 4. And I can alter the volume of that, alter the filters and various other things if I need to, so just opening that filter on that sound. And likewise I can just change a track on here that's now controlling Analog 4. Oops. And I think we're wholly on this camera now because that one just died. Hopefully it saved the file. Anyway, you get. I think you get the idea. I'm just holding this up now. I think you get the idea of what's going on here. I'll just stop some of these. So it's a mixture of sampling, MIDI control with the Digitakt, analog synths, 4 of them in here, 2 of them here, so that's 6 analog synths. We've got a Chaos pad controlling the, just allowing some solo work, and a big pad instrument in the Streichfett. These keyboards, this one can control everything, this one can control everything. Master keyboard. Master outputs, reverb, filtering and all sorts of other things in there. A couple more analog-y type synths, acoustic instruments, Akai, and then electric guitars. I've got a couple of acoustics. That's a really nice Yamaha classical. The soprano sax I use a lot, the Bliss clarinet a lot. Just getting up to speed again on the flute, and the harp. Again, still in tune, tuned to C minor. I use it occasionally, but part of the problem is having nails that are long enough, usually on the left hand. It's really hard to keep them long. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an overview of this particular setup. The monitors I'm using most of the time are these Yamaha 8 inches. I think they're called NS8s. I'll remember. I'll put them in the. I'll put a list actually in the YouTube video. And yeah, any questions? Just ask. I probably missed a few things because I rushed through that, and one of the cameras died. So this little guy over here, little Hero 5. So hopefully that will recorded the first section. Otherwise, we'll have to do the whole lot again. Bugger. All right. Take care.